for the drums.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Jonathan.
Hey, Jonathan.
Yeah. So today I wanted to get us together to talk about the upcoming Tableau Conference. So TC24 is in a couple of weeks. And if we were in person, we'd be chatting about what it is we're looking forward to and what do we want to hear from Tableau in conference. And we're just going to have that conversation today. So with that, I just wanted to talk about kind of what is the Tableau Conference, because not everybody who's watching may be familiar with it. So this is the big annual gathering of the Tableau data family, data tribe. So lots of new users there, lots of longtime users at the Tableau Conference. It's been happening every year for well over a decade now. And it's being held in San Diego the last week of April at the big convention center there.
Yeah, well, thanks for getting us here, Jonathan, to talk about it. I think it's really a valuable exercise to think before we go into the conference, especially those of us who have been attending for a decade. What am I looking for from this thing? What am I expecting to get out of it, both personally and like what are the things that I'm looking for from Tableau as a software vendor in their product and their direction? What are my measures for success about how I'm going to know whether or not my expectations were rewarded by attending?
Yep.
And unfortunately, I won't get to go this year.
Hmm.
So wish I could. I've been years past. I went last year and it was a great experience. I'm finding this year that a lot of the conferences and things that I want to do are all in the month of April, all of them. And so I came across this one that I'm going to next week, and I'll do another podcast on that experience called Data Universe. And it's actually the first conference I've come across that has a manifesto attached to it. It's very visionary, and
Good.
so I had this tension: do I go there? Do I go to the Tableau conference? And yeah, certainly I want to find out, what is Tableau doing? What's their vision? I also want to find out, what are other people doing? What's their vision? What's kind of that competitive landscape? What's the next step? And given the chance, I had to make that choice. But I'll be sad to miss y'all this year.
Yeah, it seems like the right thing to do. We can divide and conquer, so to speak, and you can go see what else is going on in the industry, and then we can go check out what's going on with Tableau and then bring them back together.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought we'd start out talking kind of a little bit about structure of the conference and
Okay.
how that is this year. So it's there's kind of the pre-COVID conference, and then there were the year that it was all virtual, and then kind of figuring out what it's going to be like, and Salesforce owning Tableau now. So the format this year is it's 2.5 days of content for the conference. It kind of opens on the first day with the vendor area, the community area is open. There's some community-led classes and everything, and then the keynote is on the second day, and there's just the one big keynote with the presentation by Ryan Ate and Tableau leadership and the devs on stage, all happening together there. And then there's the rest of the conference after that with Iron Viz and the big party on the last night and so on. There are 200 plus sessions scheduled. I heard through the grapevine, there are over 700 speaker applications for about 80 community spots. So obviously a lot of interest. I'm hoping to see some great content there. One thing that was taken out from prior conferences was brain dates, which were these ad hoc small group get-togethers that had previously been done. And then the other big change is it's not in Las Vegas, it's in San Diego, which is actually where the first Tableau conference I went to was in 2012.
Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of changes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I personally lament the loss of brain dates. In my past few conferences, I've basically been a revolving door on the brain dates because that for me has been the largest source of value, is being able to meet a lot of different people in small groups on the topics that I'm interested in. So I'm sad that the brain dates won't be there. For those who are interested in learning more about Action and what we're doing, actually the conference in the past for me has been a lot about recruiting and generating new business. And both of those things I used to do through the brain date. So I'm just gonna have to figure out new ways to do
Yeah.
that. Please feel free to reach out
Hmm.
directly to me if you'd like to talk.
So I want to comment on one part of that list that you mentioned, Jonathan, about
Hmm.
number of sessions and kind of that structure, and how maybe there's relatively few sessions, especially compared to years past, where it's like I've got 200 things to choose from. I found myself kind of going back and forth on this pendulum. At first, when I just got into Tableau, I really wanted to hear the stories from people about what great value it brought to them, either their company or their organization. We heard these great stories about nonprofits and what they were doing with data that they couldn't do before. And after a while, I started to feel like, okay, I've heard some of these stories before. What I really want to do as a technical person is learn about the new features, learn about the new technology. You just really dig into the technology vision. But I think I'm getting back to the point where I kind of understand where Tableau is trying to go, and I don't find myself quite as drawn to, learning about the new features. I want to hear some success stories. I want to hear about the features that they implemented 2 years ago and how it has helped people. Um, and I hope that some of that can actually be in the keynote because I can't go to 80 sessions. I can't watch all of those online virtually afterwards. Um, I hope that the customer success component becomes as much a part of the show as just the nuts and bolts technology.
I'm a little bit like you, Robert, where in having attended a number of Tableau conferences, I'm kind of what I'm interested in is cycled around, and some of it's also been, for me at least, I haven't necessarily found the technical content that I wanted at the conference. So I've had to kind of let go of finding that. And instead, it's I really want to hear about those success stories with particular aspects with the tool, um, about the adoption side of Tableau, and a whole bunch of that is just the role that I'm in now, um,
Yeah.
needing to think about that. And the other thing for me is just kind of trying to read those tea leaves now that Tableau's gone through a management change, a bit of a directional change with Salesforce, from what I've heard. Just understanding where that's at.
Yeah, reading the tea leaves is a really good
Completely.
kind of essence of what I'm after. Also, Francois has departed. Southern Jones is in place now as the chief product officer. I'll be really curious, is Southern delivering those keynotes? What's the role of Ryan in the keynote delivery? What's the message on like product focus and product direction that they're giving? I mean, obviously AI is going to be splattered all over the place. But when I think about like what were the big announcements they made last year, there was Pulse, there was Einstein, there was Viz extensions, there was headless BI. Um, I'm not really actually seeing that any of those things have arrived actually in my workday yet.
Mhm.
And so there's not a single big announcement from last year's conference that has made a significant impact on what I'm doing. And so I'm going to be looking at these big announcements that they're making around AI and asking myself, to what extent are they sort of inflating a balloon, and to what extent is what they're announcing going to be pragmatic and practical, and how and when is it going to become available for me to make use of?
So, if I might do a little bit of reading of the tea leaves together with y'all right now,
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed this pattern here and there over the years that actually a week or two before the conference, you'll typically see some press release that goes around social media from Tableau on their blog or something of that nature. I saw one of those just a few days ago about Einstein Copilot. And so I've noticed that, when we see these press releases, hey, there's your exit sign that says, hey, we're going this way, and this is what you can expect to see. So I already know that one of the things that is going to be a focus is Einstein Copilot, which is not just AI enabled, natural language querying, but natural language calculation creation. Hey, how about that? Hey, write me a calculation that does blah, blah, blah. I find myself doing that in ChatGPT all the time to write Python code. And so I can see them heading this direction to just make the dashboard creation process easier, embedding that AI in the workflow. So I'm very interested to hear more about that.
Yep.
Yep. And I think after we get back, we can really kind of pick apart what we see is actually happening with the product direction based on what's actually announced. But to me, one of the sort of themes that I'm picking up on is the acquisition from Salesforce, this kind of decision to pick apart the technology from Tableau and kind of take it for its pieces. If this Copilot thing comes to be, Robert, to me that would be a real huge assist. And one of the things that I'll be interested is, where is their focus in their presentation of the product direction? Are they focusing on the enterprise still? Have they listened to the request for more features that enable the analyst? Are they focused on the consumer and the interactor? Like, what's the mix and the balance of product direction that they're emphasizing?
But also ask, to what degree are they going to continue pushing investment in the backend technology, the data cloud, the semantic layer, just the pure raw data side of it, not even the front end, making dashboards, asking analytical questions, but the management of that data layer. How much are people going to want to adopt? The Salesforce way of doing that, and how will that interplay with other tools? I'm very interested to see investment and announcements and vision in that aspect.
And for me, one of the pieces related to that, and going to I still have that analyst focus, is the relative balance of support for databases versus files. In a way that there's still, pick a number, 10%, 20%, 50% of data that people are pulling into Tableau is file-based. And Tableau Prep, Tableau's desktop's capabilities for dealing with files could be better. And is that something that is just being left where it is, or is Tableau trying to advance that? And that's some of the AI tools. I think there's a huge opportunity there for AI tools to help us get better.
Will there be an AI-enabled Excel data interpreter? It could be.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Yep. And to me, I spent a lot of my early career, 10 years of my early career, doing SAP. And when I would go to those SAP conferences, it was just a sprawl of corporate kind of nonsense, right? Like it was just too many people, and it was too big, and all of the ideas were too big, and none of it was really that penetrable. And so one of the things that I'm looking for is, with the Salesforce acquisition and the transition of Tableau over time, are they becoming that? And so the way that this connects back to what you're describing is, Robert, you've really called out that the AI isn't any good at all unless we have a data model that stitches together and integrates the meaning of the data with the structure of the data. And so there's this balance that you've mentioned, Jonathan, between files and databases. But smack in all of that is the modeling and the data model. And so what I'm looking for, are they going to come through with some kind of overarching, kind of big, high-level sales pitch that actually attempts to paint over the fact that there isn't any real big assist in the modeling of the data that would enable the AI, right?
Yep.
What's happening down there?
Yep. Yeah, and that touches cataloging, that touches ingestion, transformation.
Yeah, what's going on in the engine room?
Yep.
I could go on and on and on about that engine room. And it's like the Mechanical Turk thing, right? Underneath it all,
Hmm.
there's just lots of people clicking lots of buttons to get all
Mm-hmm.
that data pulled
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
together. Um, and it's something that is not immediately visible, um, but is costly in terms of time, money, even data storage. And so I think that's where there's just vast potential for AI
Hmm.
innovation. Even simple things like saying, look, just like AI can do image comparisons, and in image A and image B, they're 90% similar, 99% similar. What about table version A, table version B? These things are 99% similar, and they both take up a gigabyte worth of storage. Do you need both? Can I help you merge both?
Hmm.
And save on storage costs and all of that stuff? It's that, there's not an ROI, not an
Hmm.
apparent one, because it's all way back in the engine room that no one ever sees. And it's really hard to justify a data engineer's time to just kind of be a janitor in cloud storage that, well, storage is cheap.
Hmm.
One last spectrum to look at is the level of independence between Tableau and Salesforce, right? Like, so to
Mm-hmm.
what extent are we at a Salesforce conference versus to what extent are we at a Tableau conference?
I'm just finishing out with one quick thing. Like um, one of the things for me in thinking about a conference is what is going to make the conference for me? Like what makes it worth the days I'm not at my job, I'm away from my family, the money that's being spent for me to be there? What makes it worth it? So what's that for you, Keith?
Um, for me, it's going to be the tea leaves. Last year I did not want to go to the Tableau conference at all, and I came back invigorated, enthused, and inspired, and it had changed my perspective 100%. I'm kind of in the same boat this year where I'm a little bit of a skeptic. I'm not so sure if I'm into this thing anymore, and so the degree of turnaround and the degree to which I can depart with this sensation that Tableau is still in it, and there's still an innovative passion going on inside of that company. To me, is going to be the determining factor.
And when you both come back from the conference, we can compare notes about what I learned from the people outside of Salesforce, outside of Tableau. They're trying to develop a vision and products and grow the wider ecosystem around the next phase of data and how AI plays into that and everything of the sort.
Well, great. And I think the piece for me is thinking about adoption in of my user community and what's gonna finding what are those nuggets that are going to take us to that next level so learning from the community. So I'll be looking at sessions and what just connecting with other people I haven't seen because I wasn't at the conference last year. So looking forward to that. All right. Well, thank you both. This has been great. So I
Yeah,
hope
thanks,
we
Robert.
all have great conference experiences and we'll catch up on the other side.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can't
we'll
wait
see
to
you in
see what
San
we
Diego in a
learn.
couple of weeks.
Yep. And for the rest of you out there, please look us up. So Keith and I will both be at the Tableau conference and Robert will be at Data Universe.
In
Did
New
I get the
York
name right?
City.
In New York City. All
Yep.
right. Great. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Action Analytics.